In order to help tell the story and sell the design, that's what we do, and we do it very well. What does design for virtual environments demand that traditional set design doesn't? And how has that challenged and inspired you creatively?
On the one hand, with virtual design, you don't really have any constraints like physical or structural or even with scale. And that's kind of exciting and inspiring. But on the other hand, you still have some very serious technical limitations when it comes to real-time rendering of textures and lighting and reflections and refraction and that sort of stuff. So you've got these two opposite poles that have to be balanced to get something to work properly and look great.
In a lot of ways, there's no rules, and you can really do anything. But it's, for me, been about figuring out what those new set of rules that we should be following, right? Because like I was just saying to Raeford, just because you can do anything in the virtual world doesn't mean that you should, right? It still needs to feel like a cohesive part of the design.
At the moment, we are realizing that the virtual projection was no longer a side project, but now it's maybe the future of the industry. Let's unpack that a little bit.
I saw the behind-the-scenes footage of The Mandalorian and what they were doing with that volume. It was really exciting. It kind of blew me away. But they were, that was a single camera shoot used for film. It wasn't real time yet. But I knew at that moment that it was on its way.
What are some key considerations when designing around LED volumes? Camera distance, parallax, ghost framing, and how do those impact layout and storytelling?
When you think about all those different things like camera angles and blocking and materials and distances of the furniture from the cameras and all that, it doesn't actually make that much difference whether you're doing something physically or whether you're doing something virtually, because all the same rules still apply. And so we've been building sets and coming up with these ideas for storytelling environments for a very long time. So we're basically just translating all of that into this new medium. There are definitely some things that are different, and there, like how many cameras you can have and how fast your processors are and those kind of things. But essentially, the bottom of all of this is really about storytelling, about creating a context for whatever it is that you're talking about.
What's really great about virtual, we can be on the rooftop, we can be on a balcony. And that's what virtual really does to us. It really pushes the boundaries, so we're not just set in stone of like 4 walls.
When you're building a virtual set, how do you think about depth, materials, lighting, and background composition to make it feel real?
Details matter because, in a wide shot, if the talent feels like it's floating and standing on top of an LED floor, like that's the first thing you notice.
Yeah.
It's like not real. We'll have a physical set that has a volume, and we're creating this base skin and the way they can use the volume that integrates with the set seamlessly.
Hybrid seems to work really well because you have a space that's sort of grounded, and then you can have either windows or set extensions that are informed by the physical grounded set. It almost makes the rest of it more believable and more dynamic. When you have tracking shots that have parallax, having a physical set really grounds the whole experience.
What do you see as the future of the virtual set design, and how do tools like AI factor into that vision?
Well, I think AI is going to have a huge impact as we move forward. I mean, it's probably going to accelerate the design process for one. It'll be things like generating assets, maybe even coming up with shots, just giving us a whole bunch of different options to choose from. It's definitely going to be playing a big part in the future of virtual.